I saved her from a Deathbot. Now we're soul-bound and hunted across the stars. The Starbreaker tore through a storm of asteroids, its hull rattling like a tin can in a tornado. Jackson Creed gripped the controls, sweat beading on his brow, his gray eyes locked on the flickering nav screen. "Come on, girl. Don't quit on me now," he growled, his voice rough as gravel. Alarms blared, a shrill wail cutting through the low hum of the engines. His left hand, a sleek prosthetic of glinting steel, twitched on the throttle, sparking faintly. Outside, the void of Nova Reach swallowed the light, save for jagged rocks flashing past in bursts of crimson and violet. He banked hard, dodging a boulder the size of a house. The ship groaned, metal screeching against metal, but held. Jackson let out a sharp laugh, relief flooding his chest. "That's my girl." He tapped the console. The only friend he trusted after years of running solo. Epsilon 7 loomed ahead, a sprawling station of neon-lit towers and spinning energy rigs, glowing like a beacon in the black. He needed a drink, a bed, and maybe a fight, just to burn off the adrenaline. Inside Stellar Drift, the air was thick with the tang of recycled oxygen and cheap synth liquor. Neon reds and blues pulsed across steel walls, etched with graffiti of forgotten ships. The bar hummed with life, traders haggling, bots whirring, and a low bass line thrumming from hidden speakers. Jackson shoved through the crowd, his worn leather jacket catching glares from a few roughnecks. His prosthetic hand flexed, a faint buzz under his skin, drawing curious stares. He ignored them, slumping onto a stool at the counter. "Whiskey, the real stuff," he told the bartender, a grizzled man with a cybernetic eye. The guy grunted, sliding a glass of amber liquid across the bar. Jackson sipped, savoring the burn, when a commotion erupted near the back. Raised voices, sharp and angry, cut through the din. He turned, catching sight of a woman cornered by three figures in hooded cloaks, their arms glinting with mechanical augments. "You betrayed us, Solara," one snarled, his voice distorted through a modulator. The woman stood defiant, her silver hair catching the light like a comet's tail, her green eyes blazing. Her jumpsuit, patched with reflective strips, hugged a lean frame. A metallic collar gleamed at her throat, pulsing faintly. Jackson's gut twisted. Trouble had a way of finding him. But he wasn't looking for a cause. Then, one thug raised a plasma pistol. The crowd scattered, leaving a clear shot. Jackson cursed under his breath, hand already on his own gun. "Not my fight," he muttered, but his feet moved anyway. He crossed the bar in 3 strides, drawing his weapon, a sleek, worn blaster, and fired a warning shot. The bolt scorched the wall, freezing the thugs in place. "Back off," Jackson said, low and steady, aiming at the leader. The thug laughed. A grating buzz. But Solara seized the moment. She ducked, slamming a fist into one attacker's gut. Her movements fluid, precise. Jackson fired again, clipping a second thug's arm. The third lunged at him, blade flashing. He blocked with his prosthetic, sparks flying as metal met metal. Pain shot through his nerves. But he gritted his teeth, shoving the thug back. Solara tackled the leader, knocking the pistol away. They hit the floor, her collar sparking wildly. Jackson grabbed her arm, yanking her up. "Time to go," he barked, dragging her toward the exit. A blade grazed his side, tearing his jacket. Blood seeped through his shirt, smearing onto her collar as he pulled her close. The device flared, a brilliant white light blinding the room. They stumbled into an alley, the bar's chaos fading behind them. Solara wrenched free, her eyes wide, breath ragged. "Your blood," she whispered, touching the collar. It pulsed, warm against her skin, syncing with a faint hum from Jackson's prosthetic. It triggered the oath of light. You've bound us." Jackson froze, whiskey still burning in his throat. "Bound? Lady, I just saved your ass, not proposed. His hand buzzed, a strange warmth spreading up his arm. Across the alley, a cloaked figure watched, whispering into a comms device. The flame sees all. Something was coming for them, fast. The alley outside Stellar Drift reeked of scorched metal and spilled fuel. The air was sharp, laced with the chill of Epsilon 7's artificial night. Jackson pressed against a rusted bulkhead, his blaster still warm in his grip. Eyes scanning the shadows. Solara stood beside him, silver hair glinting under flickering neon. Her green eyes locked on the glowing collar at her throat, its pulses synced with the faint buzz in Jackson's prosthetic hand, a rhythm that set his nerves on edge. Blood from his torn side dripped onto the grimy floor, staining the hem of his jacket. "What the hell's this oath of light?" Jackson asked, voice low, rough with irritation. He flexed his steel fingers. The hum grew louder, like a distant engine waking up. "And why's my hand acting like it's got a mind of its own?" Solara's breath hitched. Her fingers brushed the collar. "It's ancient, from when my people lived under twin stars," she said, voice steady but urgent. "The oath binds two souls, sharing thoughts, feelings, even memories. Your blood triggered it. We're linked now, for 30 days. She paused, eyes narrowing. "Or until one of us breaks it." Jackson snorted, holstering his blaster. "Breaks it? Lady, I don't even know you. I'm not signing up for some alien soulmate deal." But the warmth in his hand pulsed stronger, and a flicker of imagery burst through his mind. Flames, a city of crystal spires, burning. Not his memory, hers. He shook his head, heart pounding, trying to clear the vision. Solara stepped closer, her gaze turned fierce. "You don't get it. Breaking the oath could erase my memories, or yours. My people, the Solara, don't take this lightly. Those attackers, their eternal flame. They think I betrayed them, just for working with humans. If they catch us, they'll kill you to sever the bond." Jackson's jaw clenched. "Great. Saved a damsel, got a death squad on my tail." He scanned the alley, caught a faint whir. A drone, cloaked in shadow, its lens flashing. His pilot instincts kicked in. He grabbed Solara's wrist, pulled her behind a stack of crates. "Stay. Low," he whispered, drawing a handheld jammer from his belt. A pulse of static. The drone crashed in sparks, fried midair. Solara yanked her wrist free, glaring. "I'm not helpless, Creed. I can fight my own battles." Her fire sparked something in him. Respect, maybe, or just plain annoyance. Either way, she wasn't some fragile cargo. "Fine," he muttered, "but we're not fighting here. We move." They slipped into Epsilon 7's winding corridors. The hum of machinery echoed around them, constant and cold. At last they reached a wide viewing deck. A dome of reinforced glass arched above and beyond. Twin stars burned in, the void casting silver beams on steel floors. A crowd had gathered, murmuring, watching a ritual begin. Solara stopped short. Her face went pale. "They're holding the oath ceremony now. We have to do it, Jackson. If we don't, the eternal flame will say I've dishonored our ways. They'll hunt us both." Jackson rubbed the back of his neck. The buzz in his hand was now a deep, steady thrum. "You're saying I've got to play alien groom to keep us alive?" He sighed, catching the weight of her stare. "All right, let's get this over with." The ceremony began beneath the twin suns. A Solar elder chanted in a tongue Jackson didn't recognize. The collar glowed, light unfurling like liquid fire, winding around their wrists. Then it hit him. Her pain. Flames devouring a city. Her home. Gone. Solara gasped, her eyes wide, seeing his past. The explosion that killed his squad. Shards of metal raining down. Their minds tangled, raw, unfiltered, until the light faded and silence fell. They stood, bound. The crowd hushed. Solara's voice trembled. "We're one now, Creed. Like it or not." Jackson nodded slowly. His throat felt tight, but before he could speak, a comms ping cut through. A contract. Retrieve. A core from Cerberus 9. Enough credits to clear his debts. He glanced at Solara. Her eyes burned, fierce. Despite the fear, he now felt through the bond. "Come with me," he said, surprising even himself. "We'll figure this out. On the Starbreaker, safer than here." She nodded, but as they turned to leave, a cloaked figure slipped into the crowd, whispering into a comms device. "The flame knows where they're headed." The voice hissed. "Cerberus 9. Something was waiting for something with a grudge." The command deck of Kale Vortex's ship hummed with cold precision, a stark contrast to the chaos of Epsilon 7 below. Dim lights cast long shadows across polished steel, glinting off Kale's black armor. His left eye, a red cybernetic lens, whirred, softly, scanning a flickering hologram of Solara Vin. Her silver hair, her blazing green eyes, filled the projection, stirring a bitterness that burned deeper than the void outside. Kale's organic hand clenched, nails biting into his palm, as memories clawed their way up, flames engulfing his family's outpost. In 2236, Solara's people turning their backs as his mother's screams faded into ash. He exhaled, the sound harsh through his helmet's filter. "You'll pay for their silence, Solara," he muttered, his voice low, venom-laced. The deck vibrated faintly, engines purring like a predator waiting to strike. His crew moved in silence, augmented limbs clicking against the consoles as they monitored signals across Nova Reach. Kyle tapped a command, pulling up data on the energy core at Cerberus 9. It wasn't just power. It held an ancient Solara AI, a key to NovaCorp's plan, to crush every colony that still dared to stand. A junior officer approached, his voice hesitant. "Sir, we've intercepted chatter. The core's been targeted by a merc. Name's Jackson Creed." The hologram shifted, showing Jackson, rugged, leather-clad, his prosthetic hand glinting under dim light. Kale's lip curled. A nobody, yet Solara was with him, bound by some fool ritual. His lens zoomed in, catching the faint pulse from the collar at her throat. "The oath of light," he spat. "Pathetic." The officer shifted, clearly uneasy. "There's more, sir. The eternal flames after them too. They've planted a spy on Epsilon 7, tracking Creed's ship, the Starbreaker." Kale waved a hand, dismissing it. The flame were zealots, useful only as a distraction. He'd deal with them later. His focus was Solara, her blood, her bond, her life. She would unlock the core's secrets whether she wanted to or not. "Set course for Cerberus 9, Kale ordered, his tone sharp, cutting through the hum of machinery. "Deploy the hunter drones. If Creed resists, burn him." But Solara, he paused, the red glow in his eye pulsing brighter. "Bring her to me. Alive." The officer nodded and hurried off to relay the command. Kale turned back to the hologram, tracing Solara's face with a gloved finger. "You owe me a debt, and I collect in full." A comms ping interrupted, sharp and insistent. Kyle activated it, a distorted voice crackled through. "Vortex, the flame sees your moves. Join us, or we take the core ourselves." Kyle's laugh cut through the silence, cold and dry. "You're insects," he said, before slicing the connection. The flame thought they could challenge NovaCorp. Let them try. He'd crush them both, Solara's betrayers, and her new human pet. The ship's engines roared, a deep growl echoing through the hull as it surged toward Cerberus 9. Kale stood motionless, his lens locked on the stars outside, their light swallowed by the black. He remembered his sister's hand, small, trembling, slipping from his grasp as fire closed in. Solara's people could have saved them. They chose not to. Now, she'd learn what loss really meant. A faint alert flashed on his console, a signal from Cerberus 9, weak but growing. Stronger, the core was active, calling out. Kyle's pulse quickened. A rare flicker of anticipation. "Run all you want, Solara," he whispered, his voice like a blade in the dark. "I'm coming for you." The stars blinked. "And something," answered back. The Starbreaker glided into the shadow of Cerberus 9, its engines a low rumble, echoing against the silence of the void. Jackson Creed leaned back in the pilot's chair, the console's green glow casting sharp lines across his face. His gray eyes flicked to the viewport. An abandoned outpost loomed ahead, a jagged skeleton of steel and frost orbiting a dying star. Rust clung to its hull like a disease, and faint wisps of gas curled from cracked vents, glowing a sickly yellow. His prosthetic hand twitched, buzzing softly, as if the station itself were whispering to it. "Creepy place," Jackson muttered, sipping stale coffee from a dented mug. Beside him, Solara Vin stood rigid. Her silver hair caught the starlight, her green eyes sharp and wary. Reflective patches on her jumpsuit glinted with every move. The collar at her throat pulsed faintly, syncing with the hum in Jackson's hand. He felt her tension through the oath of light, a tight knot of fear and resolve, like a storm brewing in his chest. "Creepy's the least of it," Solara said, her voice crisp with a cadence that marked her as Solara-born. Cerberus 9 used to be a research hub before Novacorp gutted it. "If that core's here, it's guarded." She tapped the console, pulling up a grainy station map. Her fingers moved with practiced grace, betraying years of tinkering with tech Jackson could barely pronounce. He grinned, leaning closer. "Guarded, huh? Good thing I've got you, gearhead." Her glare could have melted steel, but he caught a flicker of amusement in her eyes. The link between them hummed, warm, intrusive, flashing images. Her hands assembling a circuit under starlight, a memory that wasn't his. Jackson shook it off, his jaw tightening. "Let's move. Sooner we grab this core, sooner I'm free of debt, and maybe this damn buzz in my hand." Solara's lips pressed thin, but she nodded. "Stay sharp, Creed. Something's off." Her voice carried a warning. The collar pulsed brighter, sending a jolt through Jackson's prosthetic. He cursed under his breath, flexing the metal fingers. It wasn't just buzzing now. It felt alive, pulling him toward the outpost like a leash. They suited up in silence. The Starbreaker's airlock hissed shut behind them. The docking bay greeted them with a blast of stale air, thick with the stench of sulfur and decay. Rusted girders groaned overhead. A distant drip echoed, each drop hitting the floor like a hammer. Jackson's boot crunched on frost-covered debris. His blaster was drawn, its weight steady in his grip. Solara moved beside him, a compact scanner. In her hand, its blue light cutting through the gloom. "Signals strong," she whispered, her breath misting in the cold. "Cores in the central lab, 3 levels down." She led the way, her steps silent, almost predatory. Jackson followed, eyes darting to every shadow. The link flared again, sharper now. Her memory of a burning city, scream swallowed by smoke. He stumbled, catching himself against a wall, the steel icy under his palm. "You okay?" Solara asked, pausing. Her voice was softer than he expected. She touched his arm, and the link steadied, her concern a warm pulse in his mind. "Yeah," Jackson lied, shaking off the vision. "Just keep moving." But his prosthetic buzzed louder, vibrations crawling up his arm. The station felt wrong, like it was watching them. They reached a sealed door. Its panel was dark, wires spilling like entrails. Solara knelt, scanner humming as she patched into the system. Her fingers danced, coaxing sparks from the circuits. "Got it," she said, triumph in her tone. The door screeched open, revealing a corridor lit by flickering red emergency lights. But as they stepped forward, a low growl echoed, a mechanical Snarl, sharp and hungry. Jackson spun, blaster raised. He caught a glint of metal in the dark. Red eyes flared, locking onto them. Hunter drones. Kale's drones. They weren't alone. The corridor of Cerberus 9 erupted in chaos. A deafening screech of metal claws against steel walls. Jackson Creed ducked. A hunter drone lunged, its red eyes blazing like twin embers in the flickering dark. Sparks flew, showering the frost-crusted floor. His blaster roared. Bolts seared the air, but the drone's armor deflected them with a dull clang. Beside him, Solara Vin crouched. Her scanner's blue glow trembled in her grip. The oath of light pulsed at her throat. A frantic rhythm, mirroring the buzz in Jackson's prosthetic hand. "Move!" Jackson shouted, shoving Solara toward a side passage. Her silver hair whipped as she ran, her jumpsuit catching glints of emergency lights. The drone's claws slashed, grazed his jacket, tore fabric with a sharp rip. Pain flared in his side. Blood seeped warm against his skin. He gritted his teeth, fired again. The shot clipped the drone's leg. It skittered with a high-pitched whine. Solara skidded to a halt. Her voice was sharp. "Creed, behind you." Another drone dropped from the ceiling. Its servos hissed like a snake. Jackson spun. His prosthetic slammed into its chassis. The impact jolted his arm, nerves screaming. The drone crumpled, sparking wildly. He felt Solara's fear through the link. A cold spike in his chest mingled with her fierce resolve. It steadied him somehow. "Keep going," he growled, grabbing her wrist. They sprinted down the passage. Boots pounded on icy metal. The air was thick, sulfur's bite. The core, a pulsing orb of violet light, tucked in Solara's pack, its hum vibrating through Jackson's hand. The drones weren't random. They wanted it, and he'd be damned if he let them win. Solara's scanner beeped, frantic. "There's a maintenance shaft ahead," she said. Breathless, her Solara accent clipped each word. "It'll get us to the docking bay." She darted to a panel, ripped it open with a grunt. Wires spilled like veins. Her fingers flew. Sparks danced as she hacked the system. Her green eyes narrowed, focused. Jackson stood guard, blaster trained on the corridor's mouth, where shadows writhed with mechanical clicks. "You're slow, gearhead," he teased. Voice tight, masking the ache in his side. A drone's claw scraped closer. A grating screech echoed. Solara shot him a glare, but her lips twitched, a spark of defiance he was starting to like. "Done," she snapped. The shaft's hatch hissed open, venting stale air. They climbed in. The narrow tube was claustrophobic, its walls slick with frost. Jackson went first. His prosthetic scraped the metal. Each buzz sent flashes through his mind. Solara's city burning, flames licking crystal towers. Her memory, not his. He shook it off, cursing the oath's grip on his head. They dropped into the docking bay. The Starbreaker waited, a battered hawk amidst rusted cranes. But the drones followed, bursting through the ceiling. A shower of debris. Jackson fired. Bolts flashed. Solara sprinted to a control terminal, scanner plugged in. "I can overload their targeting," she called, fingers blurred. A drone lunged at her. Jackson tackled it. His prosthetic cracked its hull with a sickening crunch. The terminal sparked. The drones froze. Their eyes dimmed. Solara's hack worked. For now, they bolted for the ship. Jackson's side burned. His hand buzzed wildly. As the airlock sealed, Solara slumped against the wall, clutching the core. Her eyes met his, wide with shock. "Creed, your hand. It's glowing." He looked down. His prosthetic pulsed violet, matching the core's light. Through the link, he felt her suspicion, sharp as a blade. She'd seen something in his mind. A lab, Novacorp techs, and Solara's tech. In his hand. "What aren't you telling me?" she whispered, her voice a mix of hurt and steel. Outside, a new signal flared. Cold. Precise. Kyle was closing in. The Starbreaker's cockpit thrummed with a low, steady pulse, its console lights casting a faint green glow over Jackson Creed's tense frame. He slumped in the pilot's chair, blood crusting his torn jacket, the ache in his side a dull roar. His prosthetic hand pulsed violet, a sick mirror of the energy core resting in Solara Vin's lap. She sat across from him, her silver hair tangled, green eyes locked on him like twin beams. The Oath of Light's collar glowed at her throat, its rhythm syncing with the buzz crawling up Jackson's arm, tugging at his nerves like a live wire. "What did I see, Creed?" Solara's voice was low, sharp, each word clipped by her accent. "That memory? Novacorp Labs. My people's tech in your hand. You said you didn't know." Her fingers tightened around the core, its surface swirling with faint violet sparks. Through the link, Jackson felt her suspicion. A cold, heavy weight pressing on his chest, laced with the sting of betrayal. He rubbed his neck, eyes shifting away. "I don't know, all right." His voice came out rough, frayed by exhaustion and pain. "This arm's black market junk, pieced together after I lost the real one, could have come from anywhere." But the words felt hollow, and the link betrayed him. Her doubt mirrored his own. A gnawing itch he couldn't shake. The prosthetic's glow flared brighter, and suddenly, a flash. Sterile walls, techs in white coats, a blueprint of Solara tech glowing on a screen. Not his memory, or was it? Solara stood, her jumpsuit rustling as reflective patches caught the cockpit's dim light. "Don't lie to me," she said, stepping closer, her breath misting in the chilled air. "The oath shows me parts of you, truths you're hiding. Maybe even from yourself." Her eyes soften, but only for a moment. "If you worked for Novacorp, if you had anything to do with what happened to my home." "I didn't," Jackson snapped, locking eyes with her, his gray gaze unflinching. "His eye was a grunt, Solara. I flew their ships, not their schemes." He flexed his prosthetic, the hum spiking, a jolt ripping through his arm. Another image, flames devouring crystal spires, screams echoing in the void. Her home, her pain. He winced, gripping the armrest, its leather creaking under his fist. "This link's messing with my head." "Yours too," she hesitated, fingers brushing the collar at her throat. "Maybe," she said, voice quieter now, almost fragile. "But the core's tied to it, to us." She lifted the orb, its light pulsing with the same rhythm as their bond. "I ran its code while you were out. It's not just power. It's Solara tech. An AI fragment. My father's work, stolen by Novacorp to control colonies." Jackson's eyebrows shot up. "Your father?" He leaned forward, the chair groaning under him. "You're saying this thing's personal?" The link pulsed again, and he saw it. Her father's face, kind but tired, guiding her hands over a circuit board. Jackson's throat tightened. He knew loss, but hers cut deeper, raw, fresh. Solara nodded, her eyes far away. "He died fighting them, trying to keep this safe." Her voice cracked, but she straightened, shoulders squaring. "If we sell it, Novacorp wins. They'll burn worlds with it." She looked at him, pleading through the link, a warmth clashing with her cold words. "We can't let that happen, Creed." Sighed, raking a hand through his hair. "You're asking me to throw away my only shot at freedom," he said, voice dry, but softer now. "I'm drowning in debt, Solara. This core's my way out." But her resolve bled through the link, steady, unshakable, and he hated how right it felt. "Fine. We keep it, for now, but we're not heroes." Her lips curved, a ghost of a smile. "Not yet," she said, her tone teasing, lifting the weight in the room for a breath. Then, the console blipped. A red alert flashed. Jackson spun, scanning the readouts. A signal, coded and cold, from the eternal flame. "Solara." A distorted voice hissed through the comms. "Deliver the core to us, or Creed's bloodstains Epsilon 7. The words lingered, sharp as a blade, as the screen flickered to static. Jackson's hand clenched the controls, his prosthetic flaring with light. "They're not bluffing," he said, voice low, pulse racing. Something was already tracking them. Kale Vortex stood alone, on the bridge of his Novacorp cruiser, the Iron Fang. Its sleek, black hull sliced through the void, headed toward Cerberus 9. The air hummed with the faint whine of quantum drives. A steady pulse that mirrored the Bech, cold rhythm of his thoughts. Dim lights glinted off his polished armor, casting sharp reflections across the steel deck. His cybernetic eye glowed red, a restless flicker as it scanned a tactical display. Blips marked the Starbreaker's last known vector. Kyle's organic hand flexed, the memory of ash and screens tightening his grip. Solara Vin's face haunted him, a ghost from a past he'd sworn to bury. "She escaped," he muttered, his voice a low rasp through the filter of his helmet. The words tasted bitter, like the sulfur clouds of his ruined home. Cerberus 9's drones had failed. Their wreckage now floated in orbit around the outpost. Jackson Creed, a nobody merc, had outrun them. With Solara at his side, Kale's lip curled. The oath of light bound them, a Solara ritual he'd once mocked, until he learned it could unlock the core's artificial mind. Her blood, her bond, her mine. They were the key to Novacorp's endgame. A holopanel flared, showing the core's specs. A swirling orb of violet energy pulsing with Solara code. Kale's eye zoomed in. Data streamed across his vision. It wasn't just a power source. It held an ancient, dangerous fragment of intelligence, capable of bending entire colonies to Novacorp's will. His superiors wanted it, but Kale saw more. A weapon to break the Solara, to burn their legacy as they had burned his family. In 2236, he still heard his sister's cries, still saw his mother's outstretched hand, refused by those who could have saved them. "Sir," a voice crackled from a nearby console, a cautious tone, his lieutenant. "We've pinged the Starbreaker. They're heading rimward, likely back to Epsilon 7. The officer's augmented arm clicked as he typed, pulling up a grainy feed of Jackson's ship dodging asteroids. The eternal flames trailing them too. They sent another demand for the core. Kale waved a hand, the gesture sharp, dismissive. "The flame are scavengers, chasing scraps," he said, his tone cold as steel. "They think they can challenge me?" He'd seen their coded threats, heard their desperate calls for alliance. Weak, the flame wanted the core to rebuild their lost world, but Kyle wanted it to end one. Solara's world, her betrayal, her people's betrayal, demanded blood. He tapped the console, summoning a new image. Solara and Jackson, bound by the oath. The link intrigued him. A biological bridge that could force the AI to awaken. Creeds, a liability, Kyle muttered, his voice a low growl. If he's linked to her, he's a threat. His eye whirred, calculating. Send 2 hunter squads. Cripple the Starbreaker. Take Solara alive. Creed. Doesn't matter. The lieutenant hesitated, his face pale. "Sir, the Flames spy on Epsilon 7 reports Creed's armed, unpredictable. And Solara. She's hacked our drones before." His voice wavered, but Kale's glare silenced him. The red glow of his eye pinned the man like a blade. "Then make it quick," Kale snapped, turning back to the stars beyond the viewport. Their light was cold, swallowed by black, just like his home had been, he remembered, clutching his sister's doll as flames closed in. The Solara's ships vanishing into the sky. They'd left him to die. Now, Solara would face the same. A faint beep broke his thoughts. A signal from Cerberus 9. It pulsed stronger now. The core was active. Its intelligence was stirring. calling out across the void. Kale's pulse quickened. A rare thrill cut through his rage. "You can't run forever, Solara," he whispered, his voice sharp as a knife. "I'll carve the truth from you." The iron fang surged forward, a predator, on the hunt. Something was waking in the dark. The Starbreaker hummed through the void, its engines a soft growl beneath the cockpit's flickering lights. Jackson Creed slouched in the pilot's chair, his leather jacket stained with dried blood, gray eyes fixed on the starfield beyond the viewport. The violet glow of Solara Vin's energy core pulsed faintly in her hands, casting shadows across her silver hair and sharp cheekbones. Her green eyes were distant, lost in thought, but the collar around her throat, part of the light-bound ritual, thrummed steadily, mirroring the buzz in Jackson's prosthetic hand. Through their bond, he felt her, a storm of fear and resolve, churning like a comet's tail. "You're quiet," Jackson said, his voice rough, breaking the silence. He shifted, the chair creaking under him, and took a swig from a dented flask. The burn of cheap whiskey did little to dull the ache in his side, or the unease crawling up his spine. "That core's got you spooked, doesn't it?" The link flared, her tension spiking through him, sharp and cold, like stepping into a frozen stream. Solara's gaze snapped to him, her accent crisp, measured. "It's more than a core, Creed. It's my father's legacy." Her fingers traced the orb's surface, its light dancing under her touch. "He built this to protect our people, not to destroy worlds like Novacorp plans." Her voice wavered, and Jackson caught a flash through the bond, her father's hands guiding hers over a glowing circuit, his smile warm, but tired. The memory wasn't his, but it stung all the same. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "So, what? We're hauling your family heirloom now?" His tone was dry, teasing, but softer than he meant. The link pulsed again, her grief mingling with his own. Flashes of his squad's laughter, gone in a fiery blast, years ago. He cleared his throat, pushing the thought down. "Look, I said we'd keep it, but the flame's not joking. They'll burn Epsilon 7 to get this thing." Solara's jaw tightened, her eyes flashing. "I know," she said, standing. Her jumpsuit rustled in the dim cockpit. "I ran from the eternal flame because they wanted war, not peace. I won't let them twist my father's work." Her voice held steel, but the bond betrayed her. A flicker of guilt, heavy as iron, for abandoning her kin. Jackson felt it too, a weight he hadn't asked for. He stood closing the distance. His boots scuffed the worn deck. "Then we're in this together," he said, surprising himself. Her eyes met his, searching. The bond warmed, a quiet trust threading between them. For a moment, the hum of the ship faded. Jackson's hand brushed hers, the prosthetic sparking faintly. A memory hit, her running through a crystal city, laughter echoing. Then flames. He pulled back, heart racing, but her hand caught his, steadying him. "You saw it too," she whispered, voice soft, raw. "My home." The bonds growing stronger. Her color glowed brighter, and Jackson felt her heart beat through. The link, fast, fierce, matching his own. He wanted to pull away, to run from the intimacy, but her resolve held him fast. Before he could speak, the console blared. A red alert sliced through the quiet. Jackson spun, scanning the readouts, his pulse spiking, a coded signal from the eternal flame. Cold and clear. "Solara, surrender the core, or Epsilon 7 burns tonight." The words lingered, sharp as a blade's edge. The screen flickered with static. Jackson's eyes narrowed, his hand already on the controls. "They're tracking us," he said, voice low, urgent. He flicked a switch, pulling up sensor logs, and spotted a faint ping. A cloaked drone tailing them since Cerberus 9. "Hang on," he told Solara, His fingers danced over the console, sending a burst of old Free Alliance code. The drone sparked, then fell silent, crashing into an asteroid shadow. Solara gripped the core, her knuckles white. "They won't stop," she said, her voice steady but tight. Through the bond, Jackson felt her fear sharpen, but something else too. A spark of defiance. Bright and unyielding. He grinned. Reckless. "Then we make them regret chasing us." But deep in the core, a faint whisper stirred, calling her name. The Starbreaker tore through the asteroid belt, its hull shuddering, debris pinging off the shields like hail on metal. Jackson Creed gripped the controls, gray eyes narrowing, tracking red blips on the radar. Kale Vortex's hunter ships, closing fast. Plasma bolts streaked past, burning orange across the black void, their hiss echoing through the cockpit. His prosthetic hand buzzed fiercely, violet light pulsing in rhythm with the energy core cradled in Solara Vin's lap. The collar around her neck glowed with the oath of light, its pulse like a frantic heartbeat that Jackson could feel through. Their link. Her fear was sharp, but her resolve even sharper. "Hold on," Jackson shouted, banking the ship hard. A massive boulder loomed ahead, jagged and fast. But he slipped through its shadow, engines roaring in protest. Solara braced herself against the co-pilot seat, silver hair whipping, green eyes locked on. The viewport. The link surged, her adrenaline flooding into him, steadying his hands, even as chaos tore past them. "You good, gearhead," he called out, his voice rough, but carrying a grin. "Don't crash us, Creed," Solara snapped back, her tone sharp with that familiar edge. But trust flickered through the bond. She tapped at her scanner, its blue glow cutting across the dim cockpit. "Kale's ships are locking in. 3 of them, heavy cannons." Her fingers danced, pulling up a tactical grid. "There's a storm ahead. Electromagnetic. It'll fry their sensors." Jackson's brow arched. "And ours," he muttered, already plotting the course. His instincts, forged from years dodging blockades, took over. The Starbreaker dove deeper into the belt, asteroids spinning past in a deadly waltz. A plasma bolt scraped the hull. Metal screamed. Alarms wailed, shrill and relentless. Jackson cursed under his breath, flipping switches to reroute power. His prosthetics sparked, fighting the strain. Then came the voice, cold and metallic, cutting through the comms like a blade. "Solara," Kyle said, filtered through his helmet. "You can't run forever. Your people left my family to burn. Now it's your turn." The venom in his words sent a shiver down Jackson's spine. And through the bond, he felt Solara flinch. Guilt crashing over her, deep and raw. The fall of her home in 2235 wasn't her doing. But Kale's hatred didn't care. "Cut him off," Jackson growled, glancing at her. Solara's jaw clenched. She leaned over her console, hands flying across the scanner. She was hacking Kyle's lead drone. Her breath hitched, the bond pulsing with sharp focus. Code poured from her like instinct. A language she knew better than her own name. The drone spiraled, then slammed into an asteroid. Boom. Debris scattered like distant stars. Jackson whooped, but the victory was short-lived. The storm hit. A wave of blue lightning surged past the ship, crackling through the void, frying the Starbreaker's sensors. Screens went dark. Alarms died. Only the rumble of the engines and the sound of their ragged breathing remained. Jackson's hands tightened on the yoke, eyes locked on the viewport. "Old school it is," he muttered, steady now, drawing on the instincts he'd honed in the high Free Alliance. He flew blind, guiding the ship by starlight. The asteroids gleamed faintly, sharp as knives. The bond pulsed again. Solara's trust anchored him, a quiet strength, pulling him through the dark. Another bolt struck. The ship lurched. His prosthetic flared, violet light bursting, searing his vision. Pain shot up his arm, clean and sharp. Solara gasped. She clutched her collar, feeling his pain through the bond. "Your hand," she began. But he cut her off, shaking his head. "Later," he said, teeth clenched, dodging another hunk of rock. Up ahead, Kale's ships. Lights dimmed, hidden. In the storm's veil, Jackson gunned the engines, dove into a swirling debris field. The Starbreaker groaned, but held. They vanished from Kale's scope. He exhaled, sweat stinging his eyes, glanced sideways. Solara was pale, but nodded firmly. A silent thank you. Then the core in her lap glowed brighter. Its hum shifted, deep and strange. A whisper, almost a voice, calling her name. Solara froze, eyes wide. The bond surged, flooded with dread. And something else, a pull. Something ancient, something she couldn't ignore. Whatever lived inside that core. It wasn't just tech anymore. The Starbreaker drifted in the asteroid belt's shadow, its engines idling with a soft, uneven hum. The cockpit was a cocoon of dim green light, consoles flickering as power stabilized after the storm. Jackson Creed leaned against the bulkhead, his leather jacket torn, blood crusted on his side. His gray eyes watched Solara Vin, who sat cross-legged on the deck, the energy core glowing violet in her lap. Her silver hair caught the light, framing her sharp features, but her green eyes were distant, fixed on the orb. The color of the oath of light pulsed at her throat, its rhythm tugging at Jackson's prosthetic hand. A restless buzz that felt almost alive. "You're staring, gearhead," Jackson said, voice low, teasing, just enough to cut the tension. He flexed his metal fingers, wincing as sparks danced across them. The bond flared. Her unease, a cold weight in his chest, mingling with something deeper. Grief, raw and heavy. "That core's talking to you, isn't it?" He stepped closer, boots scuffing the worn deck, the air sharp with the scent of scorched wiring. Solara's gaze snapped up, her voice crisp, guarded. "It's not just talking, Creed. It's him." Her voice trembled, and she clutched the core tighter. Its light pulsed faster, casting eerie shadows on the walls. "My father's work. His mind." She swallowed, and Jackson felt her memories surge through the bond. A man with kind eyes, guiding her small hands over a glowing circuit, whispering of hope for their people. The image burned. Not his, but it carved a hollow in his gut. He crouched beside her, the deck cold under his knees. "Your father's in there?" His tone softened, doubtful, but the bond carried her certainty, unyielding as steel. "How's that even possible?" He reached out, hesitated, then rested his organic hand on her shoulder. The contact steadied them both. The link warmed, a fragile bridge between their jagged edges. Solara's eyes met his, glistening but fierce. He was a coder, a dreamer. Her voice steadied. "Before Novacorp burned our world in 35, he built this AI to protect us. Our culture, our tech." He poured himself into it. Her fingers traced the core's surface. Its hum shifted, almost like a voice. "When they came, he stayed behind, sent me away. This is what he died for." The bond surged. Her loss crashed into Jackson. Flames, screams, a city of crystal reduced to ash. He exhaled, rubbing his neck. "Hell of a legacy," he muttered, his voice rough but kind. "But it's trouble, Solara. Kyle wants it. The flame, too." He glanced at the console. Its screens were dark, but the memory of Kyle's voice lingered. Cold, vengeful, promising blood. Jackson's prosthetic buzzed louder. Violet light flared. Another flash hit. A lab. Novacorp techs. Solara's code glowing on a screen. His code. His hand. Solara noticed. Her eyes narrowed. "Your arm's tied to it," she said. Voice tight. Suspicion threading through the bond. "You saw something, didn't you? Novacorp. My tech. Inside you." Her words stung. Jackson pulled back, stood. The deck creaked under him. The link carried her doubt, sharp as a blade. He hated how it echoed his own. "I told you I don't know," he snapped, pacing. His boots thudded on the floor. "This arm's junk. Bought cheap after I lost mine. If it's got your tech, I didn't ask for it." But the bond betrayed him. A flicker of guilt, a shadow he couldn't place. He stopped, met her gaze, his voice softer. "I'm not your enemy, Solara. Not now." She stood, the core cradled close. Her jaw was set. "Then prove it," she said, tone sharp. But the bond warmed, a spark of trust, fragile but real. "Help me keep this safe. It's more than us. It's every world Novacorp wants to break." Before Jackson could answer, the console blared. A hologram burst to life, the sigil of the eternal flame. A burning star spun in the air. A voice hissed, "Solara, return the core to your kin, or Epsilon 7 pays in fire." The message caught. Silence settled, thick and heavy. Jackson's hand tightened on his blaster. The prosthetic's glow pulsed wild. "They're closer than I thought," he said, his voice low, pulse racing. The core whispered again, louder. Solara's eyes widened. It knew something. They didn't. Deep inside a hidden asteroid lair, the Eternal Flame's command chamber glowed with a harsh amber light, casting jagged shadows across rough stone walls. Lyra, leader of the Solara rebels, stood before a hollow table. Her silver hair was braided, tight, and her violet eyes burned with purpose. Her armor, etched with star patterns, clinked softly as she leaned forward, studying a projection of the Starbreaker. The ship's silhouette flickered, just a speck against the chaos of the asteroid. Lyra's lips pressed into a thin line. Her breath was steady, but heavy with memory. Solara's fall, her sister's hand slipping from hers as flames devoured their home in the year 2235. "Solara Vin," Lyra whispered, her voice low, laced with both sorrows and and steel. The hollow shifted, zooming to Solara's face. Green, eyes, fierce. The collar at her neck pulsed with the oath of light. Beside her stood Jackson Creed, rugged, defiant. His prosthetic hand glowed faintly, violet. Lyra's fist clenched, leather creaking in the quiet. Solara had chosen a human. Over her kin, over the flame's vow to rebuild their world. A lieutenant approached. His augmented jaw clicked as he spoke. "Commander, our spy confirms. The core is aboard the Starbreaker. It's active." Singing Solara code, his voice carried eagerness, but Lyra's gaze stayed fixed on the hollow. Her mind raced. The core wasn't just tech. It was salvation, an AI holding the blueprint to resurrect their planet. Solara's father had forged it. Now she carried it, bound to a mercenary reeking of Novacorp's shadow. "Creed's a problem," Lyra said, tone cold, precise, her Solara accent softening the edge. She tapped the table, pulling up a data stream. Grainy footage of Jackson's, hands sparking, deep in Cerberus 9's dark. "His arms got our tech," she said, "stolen by Novacorp. He's either a fool or a liar." Her eyes narrowed, a spark of betrayal flaring. Solara had been her sister in arms, hacking drones side by side until she ran. Rejecting the flame's fight, the lieutenant shifted, his boots scraping against stone. "Kyle Vortex is hunting them too," he said, hesitant. "His cruisers closing in. We could let him take Creed, weaken them both." Lyra's head snapped up. Her glare silenced him. Kale was a butcher. His hatred for Solara, matched only by his greed for the core. The flame didn't share with Novacorp dogs. "No," Lyra said, her voice a blade. "The core is ours. Solara's bond makes her the key. She can wake the AI and restore our home." Her hand brushed a pendant at her neck, a shard of crystal from their lost city, its edges worn smooth by years of grief. "If she won't join us," Lyra said softly, "we'll take her, alive." The words lingered, a vow she hated, but couldn't break. She activated a comms link, Her voice held steady. Operative, sabotage the Starbreaker's nav when they dock at Epsilon 7. Slow them down. The spy's reply crackled, a faint hum of static. Understood, Commander. The flame burns eternal. Lyra cut the line, jaw tight. She had trained Solara once, laughed with her under twin stars. Now, duty demanded sacrifice. The hollow flickered, revealing Epsilon 7's neon sprawl, a beacon in the void. Lyra's fleet was ready, cloaked raiders, pulse cannons primed, waiting for her signal. Prepare the strike, she told the lieutenant. Her voice was unwavering. We hit when they land, no mistakes. The chamber echoed, the clank of weapons charging, a rhythm like a heartbeat, fierce and unyielding. Lyra touched the pendant again. Its weight grounded her. Solara, she murmured, almost a prayer. Come back to us, or I'll drag you myself. The hollow blinked. A new signal pulsed from the core, faint but growing, like a voice calling across the stars. Something was stirring. And it wasn't just the flame. The Starbreaker eased into Epsilon 7's docking bay. Its engines let out a final groan, then fell silent. Neon lights bathed the bay in red and blue hues. Their hum mingled with the clatter of cranes and the distant buzz of repair drones. Jackson, Creed stepped onto the platform. His boots thudded against pitted steel, his leather jacket stiff, caked with dried blood. His gray eyes scanned the crowd, traders, techs, and drifters, all moving under the station's artificial haze. His prosthetic hand buzzed, violet light flickering in sync with Solara Vin's core, tucked in her pack. The bond of the oath pulsed between them. Her tension, a tight coil in his chest, sharp as the cold air biting his skin. Stay close, Jackson muttered. His voice was low, rough with unease. Solara nodded. Her silver hair caught the neon glow, her green eyes darting to every shadow. Reflective strips on her jumpsuit flashed as she moved. The collar at her throat glowed faintly, its rhythm unsteady. Through the link, Jackson felt her dread. It weighed heavy, laced with guilt. The core, her father's legacy. This place feels wrong, she said. Her voice was barely above. A whisper, her accent sharp and crisp. He grunted, his hand resting on his blaster. Always does, he muttered. But the bond sharpened his senses, her instincts bleeding into his. The bay was too quiet, the crowd thinning too fast. His eyes flicked toward a stack of crates and caught a glint, metal moving. Trouble, he hissed, pulling Solara behind a nearby pillar. The link flared, her pulse racing in time with his. A shared rhythm of fight or flight. A voice boomed across the bay, cold and amplified. Solara Vin, surrender the core. Figures emerged, fighters of the eternal flame. Cloaks marked with burning star emblems. Pulse rifles gleamed in their hands. At the front, a woman stepped forward. Silver hair and braids, violet eyes locked on Solara. You abandoned us, she said. Her voice was steady, but laced with pain. Now hand it over, or the human dies. Solara stiffened, her hand gripped. Her pack. Lyra, she breathed, the name heavy, with memory. Jackson felt it through the bond, a flash of laughter under twin stars. Then betrayal, sharp and bitter. I won't let you twist my father's work, Solara said, her voice rising. It rang with defiance, the collar glowed brighter, and Jackson's prosthetic surged. Violet light spilled across his fingers, drawing Lyra's gaze. His arm. Lyra muttered, eyes narrowing. It's been corrupted with our tech. He's Novacorp's puppet. Her fighters raised their rifles. The barrels hummed with charge. Jackson stepped in front of Solara, drawing his blaster. His stance was loose, but ready. Call me what you want, he said. His voice was dry, a grin tugging at his lips. But I don't answer to anyone. The bond pulsed, Solara's trust flaring inside him, grounding him. He fired. A bolt scorched the deck, forcing the flame to fall back. Shouts erupted. The bay exploded into chaos. Plasma sizzling, crates splintering, the air thick with the sting of ozone. Solara dove for a nearby terminal, her fingers flying across the controls. "I can lock them out," she called. Her voice was tight, the glow of her scanners steady in the dark. Jackson covered her, blasting a rifle from one fighter's hands. Sparks rained down like stars, but then his prosthetic flared, pain searing his arm. A memory slammed into him. Nova Corp Labs. Solara's tech wired into his bones. He stumbled, gasping. The bond amplified Solara's shock. As she saw it, too. "Creed," she shouted. Her hack triggered a blast door, slamming shut, sealing half of Lyra's fighters inside. But Lyra charged. Her blade flashed, aimed straight for Jackson's chest. He blocked with his prosthetic. Sparks flew. The impact rattled his bones. Solara tackled her. The core slipped from her pack, rolling across the deck. Its hum low, eerie. Jackson lunged, grabbed it, and shoved it back toward Solara. But Lyra's voice rang out, cutting through the din. "You can't run forever, Solara." Her eyes blazed violet. Her fighters regrouped, closing in. The core's light pulsed wildly. Jackson's hand burned, glowing brighter than ever. Something was waking, and it wasn't just the flame. The Starbreaker's cargo hold was a dim cave, steel and shadows all around. It was lit only by the faint violet glow of the energy core. Jackson Creed leaned against a crate, his leather jacket torn, blood seeping through a makeshift bandage on it. His side, his gray eyes locked on Solara Vin, who stood across from him. Her silver hair was loose, framing her sharp features. Her green eyes burned with questions, the Oath of Light's collar pulsing at her throat. Its rhythm echoed with the buzz in Jackson's prosthetic hand. The bond between them crackled. Her suspicion, a cold blade in his chest, cutting deeper than the chaos of Epsilon 7's ambush. "You saw it, didn't you?" Solara's voice was low, her Solara accent sharp, each word deliberate. She clutched the core, its light flickering like a dying star. "Novacorp Labs, my people's tech, wired into your arm." Her gaze flicked to his prosthetic, glowing, faintly violet, sparking with every twitch. Through the link, Jackson felt her hurt, raw and jagged, a mirror of his own unease. "Tell me the truth, Creed. Were you one of them?" Jackson's jaw tightened, his organic hand rubbing the back of his neck. The deck was cold under his boots. "I was a pilot, Solara," he said, his voice rough, frayed by fatigue. "Back in 47, I ran test flights for Novacorp. Bad pay, worse, bosses." He met her eyes, steady despite the bond's pull. Her doubt flooded him. "They gave me this arm after I lost mine. Said it was prototype tech. I didn't ask where it came from." The words felt heavy. A memory flashed. Sterile. Walls. Techs muttering about Solara's code. His arms sparking under their tools. He winced, the link amplifying it into her. Solara stepped closer, her jumpsuit rustling. Reflective patches glinted in the hold's dim light. "You didn't ask." Her voice rose, sharp with disbelief, but softened when she saw his flinch. "Creed, that tech destroyed my home. If you were part of it." She trailed off, her hand brushing the collar, its glow faltering. The bond surged, her grief crashing into him. Crystal spires crumbling, her father's voice fading in the flames. "I wasn't," Jackson said, his tone firm, almost pleading. He stood, closing the gap, his boots scuffing the deck. "I flew their ships, not their wars. If they used your tech, I was a pawn, same as you." The link warned, her anger easing. But her eyes still searched his, probing for lies. He held her gaze, his heart thudding, and reached for her hand. His prosthetic sparked, violet light dancing, but her fingers curled around his, steadying the hum. "I believe you," she whispered, her voice raw, the bond flooding with fragile trust. Another memory hit, her running through a field. Her, Father, laughing, stars above. Jackson saw it, felt it, his throat tightening. But the core, she continued, lifting it. Its hum shifted, almost alive. It's tied to you now. I saw it in the bay. Your arm answered it. Her eyes softened, a spark of hope breaking through. It's showing us something, Creed. A way to stop Novacorp. Jackson exhaled, a dry laugh escaping. Stop them? I just wanted to pay my debts, he said, but his voice held no bite. The bond pulsed, her resolve wrapping around him, warm and fierce. He looked at the core, its light steady now, and saw something new. A faint map, glowing within, a planet's outline he didn't recognize. What's that? He asked, leaning closer. The deck creaked under his weight. Silara's breath caught, her eyes wide. It's home, she said, her voice trembling. A new Silara. My father's plan. The bond surged, her joy bright but shadowed by fear. It needed their bond to unlock, maybe their memories. Jackson's hand tightened on hers, his prosthetic glowing brighter, a vow forming unspoken. The console blipped, shattering the moment. A hologram flared. Lyra's voice, cold and urgent. Silara, give us the core, or Epsilon 7 burns tonight. The signal caught, leaving silence, thick with dread. Jackson's blaster was already in hand, his pulse racing. They're not done with us, he said, voice low. The core's map still burned in his mind. Something was waiting, and it wasn't just the flame. The Starbreaker's engine room thrummed, a low, uneven pulse. Its walls were scarred with burn marks, patched welds scattered across the surface. Jackson Creed knelt beside a sparking nav console, his leather jacket discarded, blood-stained shirt clinging to his frame. His gray eyes narrowed, tracking wires as he worked. His prosthetic hand glowing violet, buzzing with a life of its own. Solara Vin stood nearby, her silver hair tied back, green eyes sharp as she scanned a holo display of Epsilon 7's grid. The Oath of Light's collar pulsed at her throat, its rhythm syncing with Jackson's hand, their bond a steady hum of shared resolve and fear. They hit the navs, Jackson growled, his voice rough, edged with frustration. He yanked a fried circuit, sparks dancing across his fingers, the deck cold under his knees. Someone slipped in during the ambush. Sabotage. The bond flared, Solara's anger spiking through him, hot and fierce, mingled with a name. Lyra, her old friend turned enemy. He glanced at her, catching the tension in her jaw. You know who did this, don't you? Solara's lips press, thin, her Solera accent clipped. Lyra's desperate, she said, her voice steady but heavy. The flame thinks the core's their salvation. They're wrong. She tapped the holo display, pulling up a grainy feed. A cloaked figure tampering with the Starbreaker's docking clamps. That's her operative. I can lock him out. Her fingers flew, hacking the station's security. Her scanners, blue glow cutting the engine room's dim light. Jackson snorted, splicing a new wire. Desperate's one word for it, he said. His tone dry but soft. The bond pulsed, her guilt washing over him. A memory of Lyra's laugh, twin stars above, now twisted by betrayal. He shook it off, focusing on the repair. But his prosthetic flared, violet light spilling across the console. A flash hit. Novacorp techs wiring Solara's code into his arm. Years ago. He froze, the bond amplifying Solara's gasp as she saw it too. Creed, she said, stepping closer, her jumpsuit rustling. Reflective patches glinting. We can't keep running from this. Her voice was firm, but the bond carried her fear. For the core. For him. For what they were becoming. She knelt beside him, her hand brushing his, the collar glowing brighter. Your arm. The core. Our bond. It's all connected. My father's AI needs us both to stop Novacorp. Jackson met her eyes, his heart thudding. You're asking me to dive headfirst into your war, he said, voice low, almost a challenge. But the bond warned. her trust wrapping around him, fierce and unshakable. He sighed, a crooked grin breaking through. Hell, I'm already in too deep. He stood, pulling her up, their hands lingering, the link sparking with something new. Hope, fragile but bright. I'm not asking you to fight alone, Solara said, her voice soft, steady. I'm with you, Creed. The bond surged, her resolve flooding him, and Jackson felt it. A vow, deeper than words. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small metal band, etched with a faint star pattern. Made this from scrap, he said, almost sheepish, offering it to her. No oath, no tech, just us. Solara's eyes widened, a smile breaking free, and she took it, slipping it onto her wrist. A new oath, she whispered, the collar steady now, glowing with their shared pulse. The moment held, warm and quiet, until the console blared, a warning from her hack. Kale's cruiser had tripped Epsilon 7's sensors, closing fast. Kale, Solara said, her voice hardening, the bond spiking with dread. Jackson grabbed his blaster, checking its charge, the deck vibrating as the engines coughed back to life. He wants the core, Jackson said, voice grim, his prosthetic flaring bright. He's gotta get through us first. The hollow flickered, Kale's voice cutting through, cold, relentless. Solara, your time's up. I'm coming for you. The bond pulsed, their defiance won. But the core's hum shifted, whispering a warning only Solara heard. The Iron Fang prowled the edge of Epsilon 7's orbit, its black hole swallowing the station's neon glow, like a void given form. Kale Vortex stood on the command deck, his armored silhouette rigid, the hum of quantum drives a low growl beneath. His boots. His cybernetic eye burned red, scanning a holofeed of the Starbreaker docked in the bay below. His organic hand flexed, gloved fingers creaking as memories clawed at him. Flames consuming his family's outpost in 2236, Solara's people turning away, their ships vanishing into the stars. Her face haunted the hollow, silver hair framing. Defiant green eyes and Kale's pulse quickened, rage of familiar fire in his chest. She's close, he murmured, voice a harsh rasp through his helmet's filter, sharp enough to cut the deck's sterile air. The oath of light bound her to Jackson Creed, a complication Kale hadn't foreseen. The mercenary's prosthetic, pulsing violet in stolen footage, was Solara tech, Novacorp's theft, wired into a fool who didn't even know. Kale's lip curled, a sneer hidden by his visor. The core's AI needed Solara's bond to wake, and he'd rip it from her. Whatever the cost, a lieutenant approached, his augmented limbs clicking, voice cautious. Sir, the Starbreaker's nav systems are down. Flame sabotage likely. Creed and Solara are grounded. He pulled up a grainy feed. Jackson repairing a console, Solara hacking nearby. Their bonds glow faint but unmistakable. The eternal Flame's raiders are massing for a strike. They want the core too. Kale's eye whirred, zooming on Solara's collar. Let the Flame play their games, he said, his tone cold, dismissive. They're a distraction, nothing more. He'd seen their threats, coded and desperate, begging for the core to rebuild their lost world. Pathetic. Kale wanted it for Novacorp's plans. Control, conquest, but deeper, for himself, to erase Solara's legacy, to burn her people's hope, as they'd burned his. He remembered his sister's doll, charred in the wreckage, the only piece he'd saved. He tapped the console, summoning a tactical grid. Lock on to the Starbreaker, he ordered, his voice a blade. Deploy hunter drones to the bay, cripple their ship, but keep Solara alive. His eye flickered to Jackson, a flicker of disdain crossing his face. Creed's disposable. If he fights, end him. The lieutenant nodded, relaying the command, the deck humming with activity. Drones priming, their claws scraping in the launch bays below. Kale's gaze returned to the hollow, tracing Solara's movements. The core's signal pulsed stronger, Now a beacon only he understood. He'd studied Novacorp's files. Her father's AI, stolen and twisted, could reshape worlds or break them. Solara's bond was the key, her blood the trigger. "You can't hide it from me," he said, voice low, almost a vow. His hand brushed a scarred pendant at his belt, a relic of his mother's. Its weight grounding his hate. A comms ping broke. The silence, sharp and coded. The flame again, their leader's voice. Lyra, he recalled, hissing through static. "Vortex, the core's ours. Stand down, or we burn your ships." Kale's laugh was a cold rasp, echoing in the quiet. "Burn," he said, cutting the line. "You'll choke on your own ashes first." The grid blipped, a new signal from the core. Stronger, alive, calling across the void. Kale's eye widened, a rare spark of triumph cutting through his rage. "Solara," he whispered, his voice a predator's growl. "You're mine." He turned to the viewport, Epsilon 7's lights a distant lure, and gave the order to strike. The iron fang surged, its shadow falling over the station. Something answered the core's call, and it wasn't Kale. The Starbreaker shuddered in Epsilon 7's docking bay, its hull scarred and sparking from the flame's ambush. Alarms wailed, a shrill cry cutting through the roar of plasma fire outside. Jackson Creed braced against the cockpit door, his blaster hot in his grip, gray eyes scanning the viewport. Kale's hunter drones swarmed the bay, their red eyes glinting like embers, claws screeching against steel. Solara Vin stood at the console, her silver hair wild, green eyes fierce as she hacked the station's defenses. The Oath of Lights. Collar blazed at her throat, its violet pulse syncing with Jackson's prosthetic hand, their bond a torrent. Her fear, his defiance, one unbreakable current. "Creed, cover me," Solara shouted, her Solara accent sharp, fingers flying over the controls. The core sat beside her, its light flaring wild, humming with a voice only she heard. Jackson felt it through the link, a pull, urgent, like a tide dragging them both. He fired through the viewport, bolts searing a drone's hull, sparks raining like stars. The bay shook, crates toppling, the air thick with ozone and smoke. "Working on it," Jackson yelled back, his voice rough, a grin flashing despite the chaos. A drone launched, its claw grazing his arm, tearing his sleeve. Pain flared, but the bond steadied him. Solara's resolve, fierce and bright, anchoring his focus. He blasted the drone, its wreckage crashing with a hollow clang. But more poured in, Kyle's ships looming beyond the bay's gates, their cannons, glowing red. Solara's console sparked, her hack triggering Epsilon 7's turrets. They roared to life, shredding drones in bursts of white fire, but Kale's voice cut through the comms, cold and relentless. "Solara, the core's mine. Surrender, or I burn this station to ash." The bond surged, her guilt crashing into Jackson. Her home's fall, Kyle's loss, a weight she carried unfairly. Her eyes met his, wide with determination, and she shook her head. "No," she said, voice steady, her hands trembling only slightly. "This ends now." She grabbed the core, its light searing, and patched it into the console, her scanner glowing blue. "I can send a signal. Disable Novacorp's fleet, expose their plans." The bond pulsed, her plan clear, but Jackson saw the cost. Her memories, maybe both of theirs, tied to the core's AI. He stepped closer, his prosthetic flaring, violet, light spilling across the deck. "You sure about this?" he asked, voice low, urgent, his heart pounding. The link carried her answer, a fierce yes, tempered by fear. She nodded, and Jackson covered her, blasting another drone, its screen fading into the chaos. But the bay doors buckled, and Kale stormed in, his black armor gleaming, cybernetic eye burning red. His pulse rifle hummed, aimed at Solara. "Step away." Kale snarled, his voice a blade cutting through the din. That core belongs to Novacorp. Jackson moved, shielding her, his blaster raised, but Kale fired, a grazing shot searing Jackson's shoulder. He grunted, staggering. The bond, amplifying Solara's cry as she felt his pain. She pushed harder, her hack surging, the core's hum rising to a wail. Jackson lunged, tackling Kale, his prosthetic slamming into the armor with a crack. Sparks flew, Kale's eye whirring, but he threw Jackson off, metal screeching. Solara screamed, "Now!" And the console erupted, a pulse wave ripping through the bay, frying Kale's drones. Their husks fell, smoking, but Kale stood, his rifle trained on her. "You'll never take it," Solara said, her voice defiant, the core blazing. In her hands, Jackson scrambled up, firing, his shot clipping Kale's arm, forcing him back. The bond roared, their hearts won, and Solara pushed the signal through, a beacon to cripple Novacorp's war machine. But the core sparked. A violent shudder and its voice broke free. Her father's, calling her name. The light swallowed them, and something changed. The Starbreaker's cockpit was a graveyard of flickering consoles and smoldering wires, the air heavy with the tang of scorched metal. Jackson Creed slumped against a bulkhead, his shoulder throbbing from Kale's shot, blood soaking his torn shirt. His gray eyes fixed on Solara Vin, who knelt by the core, its violet light pulsing erratically, casting her silver hair in ghostly hues. The Oath of Light's collar glowed at her throat, its rhythm faltering, but their bond held strong, a shared pulse of pain and defiance, binding them tighter than ever. Outside, Epsilon 7's bay was silent, Kale's drones reduced to sparking husks. But the victory felt hollow. "You did it," Jackson said, his voice rough, a faint grin tugging his lips. He winced, shifting the deck cold under his boots. The bond carried Solara's exhaustion, a weight dragging at his chest, but her green eyes burned with focus, locked on the core. Its hum had shifted, a low, mournful wail, like a voice breaking through static. That signal. It worked, right? He asked, leaning closer, his prosthetic hand sparking, violet light dancing across his fingers. Solara nodded, her Solara accent soft, strained. "Novacorp's fleet is dead in the water," she said, her breath uneven. "Their plans exposed to every colony." Her fingers trembled, brushing the core's surface, its light flickering like a dying flame. "But it took something from me." The bond surged, her fear spiking, a memory slipping, her father's face fading, crystal spires blurring into ash. Jackson felt it too, a hollowness gnawing at him, his own past fraying at the edges. He crouched beside her, his organic hand steadying hers, the contact grounding them both. "Hey, you're still here," he said, voice low, firm, cutting through the core's eerie hum. "We're still here." The link warmed, her trust a spark in the dark, but her eyes glistened, haunted. "What's it doing to us?" he asked, glancing at his prosthetic, its glow pulsing wild, syncing with the core. A flash hit, Novacorp Labs, Solara's tech in his arm, but now her father's voice, guiding, not accusing. "It's waking," Solara whispered, her voice raw, almost reverent. "My father's AI, it's alive, Creed. It's trying to rebuild everything." She lifted the core, and a hollow flickered. A map, glowing with stars, a planet's outline pulsing green. "A new Solara," she said, awe mixing with dread. "But it needs us, our bond, our memories, to finish." The bond pulsed, her sacrifice clear, and Jackson's throat tightened, his own losses echoing hers. His squad, his freedom, gone in fire. "No way we're giving that up," he said, his tone fierce, a vow. He stood, pulling her up, their hands lingering, the deck creaking under them. The core's light steadied, but a new alert blared. Eternal flame raiders, regrouping outside the bay, their ship's cannons charging with a distant rumble. Lyra's voice crackled through the comms, cold and unyielding. "Solara, the core's ours. Hand it over, or we take it from your corpse." Jackson's blaster was in hand, his pulse racing. "They don't quit," he muttered, checking the charge, his prosthetic flaring brighter, almost burning. Solara's scanner hummed, pulling up the bay's defenses, but the core's hum shifted again. A warning, her father's voice louder, urging her to run. The bond roared, their defiance won, and Jackson met her eyes, a reckless grin breaking through. "Let's finish this," he said, voice steady, the link flooding with her nod. Fierce and sure. They moved, Solara patching the core into the ship's systems, its map glowing brighter, guiding them to a new fight. But the prosthetic pulsed, and a new memory hit, not his, not hers. A stranger's voice, calling from the core's depths, hungry and unknown. Whatever they'd woken, it wasn't just her father. A year had passed since Epsilon 7's firestorm, and the asteroid base of the Free Alliance glowed with makeshift warmth. Its caverns were lit by salvaged neon, and starlight filtered through cracked viewports. Jackson Creed stood on a steel balcony, his leather jacket patched, gray eyes scanning the void beyond. His prosthetic hand, still faintly violet, hummed softly, a quiet echo of the core now locked in the base's vault. Solara Vin leaned beside him, her silver hair loose, green eyes bright against the scarred jumpsuit she wore like armor. The oath of Light's collar was gone, replaced by a simple metal band on her wrist. Jackson's gift, a promise kept. Their bond lingered, a steady pulse of shared strength, deeper than any tech. "Never thought I'd call a rock home," Jackson said, his voice rough but warm, a grin tugging his lips. He sipped from a dented flask, the burn of whiskey grounding him. The bond carried Solara's amusement, a spark that danced through him, light as starlight. Below, techs welded ships, their sparks flaring like tiny suns, while pilots laughed, their voices echoing off stone walls. The Alliance had grown, fueled by the core's signal, a beacon that crippled Novacorp and rallied colonies to fight. Solara's smile was soft, her Solara accent smooth, thoughtful. "It's more than a rock creed, it's ours." She touched the band on her wrist, its star pattern glinting, and the bond warmed, her pride mingling with his. "A shared dream, hard won. The core's map is real," she said, glancing at the stars. "A new Solara, out there, waiting." Her voice held hope, but the bond betrayed a shadow. Fear of what guarded it, of what they'd become to find it. Jackson nodded, his organic hand brushing hers, the contact steadying them both. "Yeah, but it's kept us running," he said, his tone dry, masking the weight. The core's AI, her father's voice now silent, had saved them, but woke something else. A stranger's hum that lingered in his prosthetic. Through the bond, he felt Solara's memory, a crystal city reborn. Her father's laugh, but his own flash too. Sharper now, his squad's faces, lost in fire, blending with hers. The link was changing them, fusing their pasts, their selves. "It's worth it," Solara said, her voice firm, cutting through his doubt. She turned, facing him, her eyes fierce. "We're building something, Jackson. For your people, mine." Everyone Novacorp tried to break. The bond surged, her resolve afire in his chest, and he saw it. A fleet of patched ships, Solara tech woven with human grit, ready to carve a new path. He chuckled, reckless, and pulled her close, the deck creaking under their weight. "Damn right," he said, his voice low. "A vow. We fight for us, no matter what." The bond roared, their hearts won, and the stars outside seemed brighter, calling them forward. But the core's vault hummed below, its map pulsing. A green planet, guarded by Novacorp's shadow, and something older, its voice stirring in Jackson's hand, whispering secrets neither could name. Salara's gaze met his, unwavering. "My father said." "Light leads to truth," she murmured, her breath misting in the cool air. The bond pulsed, her hope fierce but tempered by caution. "What if it's a trap?" she asked, voice soft, the question hanging like a blade. Jackson's grin was sharp, defiant. "Then we spring it together," he said, his prosthetic sparking. The violet light steady now, a beacon of their own. The stars blinked, and the core answered. A signal, faint but growing, pointing to the unknown. They'd face it as one, whatever it was.